Well, hello to you everyone, and a warm welcome to our webinar this afternoon. I do hope this finds you well. My name's Richard and I'm going to be your host today for the Future of Marketing Automation for Business webinar, brought to you by the brilliant team at Group Futurista, leading a global events company, creating their own emerging technology summits where creativity fosters and innovations flourish. They really do believe in the power of networking, in the power of connecting and bringing together innovative thinkers, all with the brightest minds from industries, academia and government organisations at a global level. Now, our seminar today, all about marketing automation, something that's become a prominent buzzword in the technology industry. And it's a market trend that's evolved from being viewed as an improved email sending tool right the way through to the amazing marketing software solutions that are desired and widely used by a variety of firms nowadays. Marketing from automation's future is unmistakably in online communication. I mean, it'll soon be able to predict what queries people have as they interact with your company, and it'll assist marketers in answering them maybe even before they're even asked. Furthermore, the most successful innovation will be in giving new value to previously untapped client categories. Safe to say that segmentation, optimization, and most importantly, consistency will be critical. So to help your business understand more about the importance of marketing automation and how it can go about implementing it, today Group Futurista brings you this seminar about the future of marketing automation for business. Now, I want to just take a moment to thank our gold sponsor for today's webinar, which is Bigtincan, who are helping the world's leading brands facilitate the buying experience of the future. Everything they offer is designed to be smart, flexible, and easily adapted to unique business processes with highly personalized experiences that people and brands love. They're on a mission to help companies deliver branded buying experiences that are also engaging but also personalized and provide value and guide people to the best decisions with confidence. Currently, innovative companies like Nike, Guess, Prudential, Starwood Hotels all trust Bigtincan to enable customer-facing teams to intelligently prepare, to engage, to measure and to continually improve the buying experience for their customers. Now, if you want to know more about Bigtincan, their website, it's a very easy one to remember, bigtincan.com, and they're also on Twitter on the handle @BigTinCan. Now, also supporting us on today's webinar are our silver sponsor, who are CleverTap, an AI-powered software as a service platform designed to leverage mobile marketing and omni-channel strategies. Focus for them is on helping companies improve their customer retention rates, all based on real-time behavioral data analysis and predictive modeling. Currently, more than 10,000 global brands such as Vodafone, Star, Sony, Discovery, Fandango, LATAM, Carousel and GoYet use the CleverTap to offer personalized experiences to improve engagement and to increase customer lifetime value. Thank you to both of them for their support for today's webinar, which we genuinely hope you will find engaging. And you are welcome, of course, to take part using the Q&A section. Your questions are vital to getting what you really want out of today's webinar. So as we go through our speakers today, at any point, put your questions in through the Q&A box. I'll take around 5 minutes at the end of each keynote to put your questions to the speakers. Now, we have 3 speakers to bring you over the course of the next hour. Then we'll take a short break. After that, 2 more speakers. Then we'll have our panel discussion featuring a few of the speakers who've been with us today, talking about the marketing automation trends we cannot afford to miss. And we'll finish with a final keynote today, all about the day we decided to migrate. That's all to come, but I'm going to get you going now with our first speaker today, who is Paulo Gomez, who is the Global Associate Director of Service Operations at QVIA. Moved from general marketing in 2011, working to digital transformation in hybrid roles between business and tech across 5 countries. He's led cross-cultural teams and delivered over 40 Salesforce projects in marketing, sales and service, all while working on a daily basis with some of the biggest Salesforce consultancies in the world. We're talking Deloitte, Capgemini, Accenture, 4C Consulting, IBM Services and Cloud Coaches. He's got a huge list of education and certifications, from graduations in marketing to postgrads in data analysis, Salesforce admin, Salesforce marketing, cloud email. And he's also been specializing in things like certified professional flow stream development operations, certified trainer as well, and plenty more within Salesforce as well. As part of his current role, he's leveraging experience in CRM and marketing tech and tech consulting, right to marketing and cross-cultural team leadership, all together with his team at the minute, where he's delivering high quality work across marketing, sales and digital, all by applying agile, hybrid and map project management combined with tech consulting. Paolo, looking forward to your conversation here. We're hearing from you about solving business challenges with the help of your marketing technology stack. Good to see you. I'd invite you just to, if you have a presentation, make sure you've got it all shared with us. I'll let you know when we can see it, and then you can carry on.
Okay. Thank you very much, Richard. Hi to everyone.
So if you just share that screen, I'll let you know when we can all see your presentation. Are you using a presentation today? Yeah.
Yes, I'm about to share. Let me know when you can see it.
I've got a little bit of something here. That looks good. You can take that into full presentation mode and off you go.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so first and foremost, thank you very much for everyone, and also, of course, for Grupo Futurista to actually invite me here. So today we are then on the Future of Marketing Automation for Business, second edition. As mentioned, my name is Paul Gomes, and today I'm going to be essentially focused on how is it that marketing technology can actually help you solve business challenges, okay? And if you have any questions whatsoever, as mentioned by Richard as well, feel free to reach out and to raise your question or topic, okay? So let's move forward. Essentially the content of today would be around giving a bit of background and intro around myself so that we are all on the same page. And then outside of that, also talking to you about business challenges and solutions towards those same challenges. So I'm going to be focused essentially on some of the biggest business challenges that you can come across. And then also going to be giving a bit of a focus on some of the best practice and advice on how to move forward. Okay, so I will not spend a lot of time on the background and intro since Richard already covered a bit of what is that I'm about in terms of the professional side of things. What I would add to what Richard mentioned is that essentially I've been working on digital transformation projects since 2012, essentially in connection to Salesforce across different solutions with Salesforce for marketing, sales, and service. And then on the back of that as well, what I would say is that adding to that, I've worked on marketing. So that was essentially where I started. So I worked there for roughly 10 years. And then I migrated to this more tech side of things of MarTech and sales tech. Okay. Then on the back of that, and then this is just about, let's say, to add some curiosity, let's say, on top of what is it that I'm doing, on top of the professional things. So I started roughly 1 year and a bit, my YouTube channel, essentially on the back of what happened with all the impact of the pandemic. Okay, I saw a lot of people getting let's say the impact, some of which was a negative impact, others positive impact of the pandemic. And then on the back of that, so I took the decision of actually building up a channel, and then on that same channel looking to share knowledge as much as possible around CRM, marketing technology and sales technology, and also tech consulting. So if you have any questions with regards to that, feel free to reach out to me via my YouTube or my LinkedIn. I'm happy to help. Okay, with that said, so I'm moving on and starting with the business challenges and the solutions. Okay, looking into this, I would say that we could easily enough, between brackets, cover more than 4 main challenges, let's say. But my decision was essentially to focus my attention with regards to those 4, and looking also through a lens of the marketing people. Okay, so starting with the first one of the biggest challenges that we can come across does not matter actually which industry you are working at, is around lead generation and customer acquisition. Okay, then of course you may say that challenge still continues if you go up to making sure that you have a loyal customer, and that if you lose the customer you can actually win it back, etc. And that's correct. Okay, so I'm focusing just on those topics that I believe that are more important, working myself as a consultant, touching around several customers, the ones that I see that are actually repeating itself across the board. So starting on this one, so one of the tools that, or one of the challenges that starts with it when you actually are going towards looking to acquire new customers, starts with segmentation. And then on the back of segmentation, you have different variables that you can use in order to actually to segment your market and then to better target it. But then my advice would be for you to actually to use, for instance, customer personas, okay, that allow for you to tailor in the best way possible your campaigns. And then on the back of that, there are some solutions that can actually help you and make your life more easy. Okay, one of which is actually around HubSpot. So HubSpot has a solution called Make My Persona that can actually help you facing that same challenge, okay, helping you, supporting you on your segmentation process. And then, for instance, if you're looking actually to invest your time and looking forward to actually underline and making your lead generation more powerful, one of the solutions that I would let's say recommend is, for instance, Pardot, okay, from Salesforce, that allows for you actually to use together with the CRM and making sure that you can actually have a very strong machine, let's say, in terms of lead generation, mostly targeted towards the B2B side of things, okay? Then last but not least, as an example of what was mentioned by Richard, so we are talking more and more about AI, of actually predicting what will be then a bit the next step. How is it that we can optimize, and how is it that we can integrate the best way possible? So one of the solutions that I was going to propose as well has to do with also lead qualification, lead generation, lead qualification, using the power of AI, on this case of a chatbot. Okay, so there's a solution coming from Drift that allows actually for you to put the chatbot on your website, and this same chatbot can be taught via machine learning, and then of course it becomes more and more intelligent, let's say, on the way it actually interacts with potential customers. It qualifies that same customers and eventually pass it on to marketing to continue to do their work, or straight away to sales. It will depend on how is it that you are setting it up. Okay, so moving forward, another challenge that is one of the most common ones, let's say, has to do with how is it that can I actually manage my several marketing channels, and not just about sending campaigns, let's say, across different channels, but much more than that, actually having a complete view of the customer, a 360-degree view. How is it that I can have that? Okay, and then how is it that I can actually work towards a brand expansion, towards my business objectives as part of my marketing, sales, and service organization? So there are some solutions out there that, for instance, allow not just for you to actually have in one single platform a full view of all different channels, as on the case of Salesforce Marketing Cloud, or even of OC Digital from IQVIA, that is focusing essentially on pharma and life science as a domain knowledge. But you also have another piece that is also important. That same solutions actually allows for you to go one step further, and this actually to have omni-channel. Okay, so the same kind of experience is expected for the customer to have independently to into which channel he has a contact with. Could be the website, could be WhatsApp, could be essentially via email. The expectation is that you have the same kind of similar kind of experience, and that there is an interconnection between the different channels. Therefore, there is not an interruption of the cycle of the customer, but there is actually an understanding of where does the customer sit within the cycle. Okay, then the other point is around ROI, okay, contribution to the pipeline, and justifying your budget. Okay, so if some people say that marketing should have a seat at the table. I will actually even add one thing extra. I would say that marketing needs to have a seat at the table. It's fundamental that marketing needs to be part of the revenue cycle. Okay, marketing, sales, and service, because the customer as a whole actually interacts with everyone, and at the end, the customer does not want to know exactly who is he or she talking with, but actually needs to understand that he's talking to the same brand across different channels, different departments. So it's important that marketing actually has that seat at the table, and it's also important that marketing actually has a contribution to the pipeline that creates business, and goes one step further, actually, to understand how is it that I can actually make my campaigns even more efficient, okay, via the usage of attribution models, okay. And here I'm just talking about Visible as a solution from Adobe, but also you have the possibility of actually integrating Marketing Cloud, Salesforce Marketing Cloud with Sales Cloud, or even Pardot with Sales Cloud, and this allows for you to have a clean understanding of the efforts that are and the benefits that are coming out of your campaigns. Okay. Last but not least, in terms of a business challenge, it's not a challenge per se that can be solved with the help of technology, but that is a challenge that has to do a lot with technology and a lot to do where we stand right now. So I'm talking about attracting top talent. Okay, so I'm working at a consultancy, so believe me, I do know what I'm talking about. Okay, so it's even it's getting more and more difficult, and why? Because the market is going into a very fast pace. There's a lot of difficulties in terms of predicting what is the next step, even more where we stand right now. And therefore, as an outcome of that, marketing technology needs to go faster to adapt to the needs of the market. And then on the back of that, you need to have people that need to be more savvy from a business perspective, but also from a technical perspective. So my solution for this is not essentially that you should focus on tech per se, but you need to find time and space within your organization to have for people to have time to study, to evolve, but also they need to have the correct mindset. So they need to have a growth mindset. They need to be focused on evolving. Okay. Then lastly, but not least, I would highly advise for you, if you're going to start this journey of actually implementing a marketing automation solution, that go out and reach out to consultancies. Okay. I'm just giving the example of IQVIA, but I could give another one. Okay. Deloitte, Accenture, Capgemini, whatever would be your proposal. IQVIA will be within the domain of life sciences, healthcare, but of course you have other solutions. The main point here is reach out to them. They are the ones that need to know or should know how is it that you can actually go one step further and actually turn your challenge into a success. Okay, moving forward to close, best practice and advice. Okay, what would be my best practice and advice? For me, and based on what I get as a kind of input of different projects that I have worked with and different stakeholders across different countries, one of the things that you normally tend to get as an input is that people try to jump straight into technology, as technology will be the silver bullet. But I would say completely do it differently. Start with strategy. Okay, if you're looking into a digital transformation, a business transformation, whatever that may be, start with strategy first, technology second. Okay, and this is fundamental because you need to understand what are your business objectives, what's your strategy, and only after that then you can actually think on how is it that you can build solutions that are sustainable and scalable. Even if you do not know exactly, you don't have a clear picture of what is it that you're looking to do, if you have already an indication of what is the strategy that you're looking to follow, that's already a good start. Then if you're missing the rest, just call for a consultancy. Most likely they will be able to help you, and then go for the solution. Okay, then the other point that I will give as a best practice, streamline your martech stack. For more than once, I work with in companies or in connection to companies that actually have more than one solution that essentially does the same. Okay, so I would say that the marketing leaders should actually look on how to get the best possible value of the existing MarTech, and then only after that actually looking to enhance. Okay, then the other point that I would feel that sometimes needs to be even more underlined is customer centricity. Before you jump the gun and before you actually go and buy the technology, you need to understand what are the customer needs, and beyond that, what is it that your group of people actually that is working on the field is actually getting from the customer. And then based on that, understand and try to do a kind of a reverse engineering, working a bit backwards towards tech and towards the potential solutions that are out there that would allow you then to get much more, let's say, on point on what is it that the customer needs and how is it that you need to build up, okay, your MarTech stack. Okay, then the other point that I would also advise in terms of best practice, if you have a clear market of what is it that you like to work, or if you have a clear market where you already work, start by understanding if there are solutions out there that are focused on that specific domain. Okay, choose domain knowledge over generalistic approach. Okay, and the reason for this is quite simple. Okay, so once more, giving the example of IQ with the company that I'm working at. So as we stand right now, we already went through the several past pains and learnings and so forth of growth. So the technology is much more stable. Therefore, the next clients can actually leverage from that. But this is valid for whatever will be the solution. Think domain first, then generalist. Okay, that will be my advice. Then to close, I would say that in my view, long is past the time where you needed to look at best of breed versus a specific suit. Okay, looking for instance into Salesforce. Right now, what you need to understand is choose flexibility, because things are going faster and faster. You need to be able to change course as you go. You need to be able to scale your solution to better support your business. And then one of the things that I would highly advise is think automation. How is it that I can actually automate my processes so that I can take out the best of my team, okay? And then I can take actually the best out of the solutions that I have or I'm working with, okay? So those are essentially my 5 best practice and advice, okay, that I would highly recommend. And that's essentially it. Richard, I'm open to Q&A. Let me know if there is any specific questions.
Thank you, Paolo. Yeah, I will just guide you to a couple of questions that have come in during that. I know it's quite a general one, but I think from your opinion and what you've described there, you might be able to sort of highlight a couple of the differences. The question says, can marketing automation tools be used by both sales and marketing? I know you talked about sort of the teams there and the need for talent within those teams, but can both of those teams use that, or should sales be looking more towards a CRM solution?
That's a very good question, Richard. So I would highly advise, depending on the maturity, let's say, of the business, of the organization, I would highly advise for that to happen. Actually, I don't think that, as I mentioned, we should work more and more towards taking out the silos and working as one unique team. So my advice would be that you should actually, while respecting, let's say, the knowledge of each of the teams, you actually should put them together. For instance, I'm going to give you a concrete example of that. So Pardot has a solution that is called Engage, okay, that essentially allows for marketing to build up the content, build up the campaigns, and have them actually available within the CRM. Okay, so that the salespeople can actually pick it up and use on their micro campaigns, let's say. That is, for instance, an example of exactly that, putting things together and work as one. So I'd say yes, definitely so.
And we definitely do hear a lot about trying to get away from siloed teams and siloed working. I mean, despite what the pandemic might have forced us into. So it's a really good approach to think about. Okay, Paolo, for now, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. Great to have you with us today.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you, Paolo. I'll move us straight on to our next keynote because it comes from the guys I mentioned to you earlier on our gold sponsor, Bigtincan. We've got Adam Weeks with us, who's the regional sales manager for EMEA. He's someone who's helped marketing and sales leaders overcome their business challenges for the past 10 years. He served 7 years in the British Army as a Royal Engineer, did several tours in the Middle East, and has now transitioned naturally into sales. The experience of those difficult situations has allowed him to deal with the pressure of the sales environment, as well as being able to build relationships with senior leaders. He prides himself in helping large enterprises like PlayStation, Amazon, and Apple all improve employee communications and increase sales. Adam is talking to us about the myth of the empowered buyer. Adam, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for being with us today, and obviously thanks to Bigtincan for supporting the webinar today. Really appreciate it. I'll let you crack on then, Joe. If you've got a presentation, then stick it up for us and talk about that battleground, that war zone that people describe sales at.
Yeah, I'm going to have to raise my bar now after that introduction. So thanks for that, Richard.
No problem. I'll let you know when we can see the presentation. That looks good. Yep, there you go. Crack on.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. So thanks everyone, and thanks Richard for that introduction. As Richard said, my name is Adam Weeks. I'm the regional sales manager here at Bigtincan. I've been with Bigtincan for 2.5 years now, and as Richard mentioned, work with all different shapes and sizes of organizations, really helping their marketing and sales teams start to challenge what we call the empowered buyers. So, but I'm not here to tell you all about Bigtincan. We can talk about that on another call, or you can schedule that with me another time. But I really want you to start thinking about what we're doing today and how sales and marketing teams can challenge what we call the empowered buyer. So you may have seen this picture before for some of you. Some may have, some may haven't. But this was an ad that was published over 60 years ago by a publication called McGraw-Hill, and it was named The Man in the Chair. And if you can't really see that, what it says is, I don't know who you are. I don't know your company. I don't know your company's product. I don't know what your company stands for. I don't know your company's customers. I don't know your company's record. And I don't know your company's reputation. Now, what was it that you wanted to sell to me? And the moral of this ad was that sales start before your salesman calls. So, the importance of this was to get that ad out to, unaware prospective buyers. And basically it was to ensure the man in the chair knew those answers to those questions. It was his responsibility to know what you're selling. Now, if we fast forward to today, 2022, if the man in the chair doesn't understand what you're selling, it's not the advertiser's fault. It's his fault. So it's completely changed from 60 years ago. So, and this is what we call the myth of the empowered buyer. And I said before, the sales start before your salesman calls. I think that's really relevant to what happens nowadays. So look, I'm not here to tell you, on this webinar with sales leaders and senior marketing leaders on here, how to run your teams and what you should do. But, I do speak to people like you all the time. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why my CMO put me up for this while he sat on a beach in South Africa. I think it's because I speak to, individuals like you all the time on a regular basis. So what I want to move on to is this slide here. And, B2B businesses have come to believe that there's a relationship between, companies and its buyers today. And the perception is that buyers are more in control than they've ever been before. And the reason they're able to be in control is they have all of this information that they have available to them all the time, constantly at their fingertips, on their phones, on their laptops. And we took these stats from a paper, and that paper is the Connecting the Consultative Experience by Robert Rose, and he works at the Content Advisory. And as you can see from these stats, it really does say that modern buyers are empowered. Now, if I read through them, what it says is that 71% of buyers begin the process with web searches, Google, Yahoo, Bing, you name it. 68% of buyers prefer to do the search independently, and actually 90% won't even take a cold call. And we can go down the whole cold calling. Is it dead? Is it alive? I'm sure there's plenty of people that talk about that on LinkedIn. So as I mentioned before, you can see how these buyers now become empowered because they're able to do all the search they want whenever they want, and they can do it on their own, and they don't have to take cold calls anymore. So, you know, from that, I think that's really important for all sales leaders and marketing leaders to have that at the forefront of their mind when they're starting to think how they can challenge these empowered buyers. And what happens is that, you know, in companies that I speak to, there's probably is happening today in people that are on this call, is that you're trying to create content that's trying to cater for every type of customer that inbounds to you. You're trying to answer every single question, and you're also trying to answer every single objection that they may have. While you're doing that, your customer facing teams are trying to differentiate between you and your competition. On top of all of this, the company is trying to push out thought leadership content through social channels, websites, ads. And what we actually end up doing is we actually end up bombarding these buyers with information, which is then causing a lot of stress and is really answering the man in the chair's assumption, because there is so much information out there. And that's why we end up seeing that some of these buyers don't want to take cold calls, because they don't want to be bombarded and they don't want unsolicited emails coming through. So that's what makes them sell. So if we move on to this slide, and what has happened, I guess, over the last 60 years is that the buying journey has become even more complex. You know, CEB says that buyers are more deeply concerned than ever before and more stressed. But why is that? Well, what happens is that research shows that organizations you assume on this call that buyers know all the information about your products and services. But the problem is that they don't. So they'd have to try and self-educate themselves, which is very stressful in itself. You know, I try to think that I know it all myself, but I don't. And what happens is that you end up becoming a subject matter expert in something that actually you don't know much about. So as you can see, 63% of these buyers are made up of teams of 4 or more people. Now, if they're all doing their independent research, that's 4, maybe 5, 6 people you have to then convince that you're the right partner to support, you know, to partner with. And they all go through their own ways of learning and educating themselves. So this has a knock-on effect on sales cycles, sales processes to become longer and more complex. And for me as a seller and my team, and I'm sure with your teams, it becomes even more stressful for us, just as much as it is for them. And what Brent Adamson says here from Gartner, in many ways, the single biggest obstacle to purchasing today is a buying problem, and it has nothing to do with the supplier at all. Richard, did you say something then, or has that just come through by accident?
By accident, I think, Adam. Carry on.
Very good. So the reason that today's buyers perform so much online research prior to talking with a salesperson is they usually don't know what they're looking for. You know, where do they get it? When they find information, do they trust it? So it really does become a massive problem. And like I mentioned before, we're hitting people with ads and emails and websites. They just don't know who to turn to. And that's when they start speaking to customer facing teams like myself, they think they already know what it is that they're going to buy, when actually they're just empowering themselves with information before they speak with me. And they're not ready for that yet. So like I said, that's me when I was 18 years old, on my first tour of Iraq, and I'm actually underneath an Apache gunship there. But I'm not here to tell you about me being in the army. Maybe I'll tell you that over a drink another day. But what I wanted to sort of bring up was just some of the problems, and I guess the war stories that I hear between sales and marketing teams, from prospects that I speak to as of this morning through to some of my customers that I still speak to today. And some of those challenges are, sales aren't using our content, or we have buyers inbound and thinking that we're going to sell them something else. Our customer facing teams don't know what content to use in the right time. And here in organizations, not too sure which partner they should go with. And that really resonates. Even one of my good friends who's a sales director at an HR startup company was trying to find the best CRM solution for him. But he had already made his assumptions by doing his own research. He went forward with a partner and actually found out that they weren't able to help him scale that he thought they could do. So it's really burnt him and really destroyed the relationship, but it's sort of proven the fact that he was an empowered buyer who made a mistake. So what I want you to start thinking about is, when we're empowering our customer-facing teams to challenge these empowered buyers, we want to know, what are you doing with your content? And that really does help with these salespeople. So one of the things that I see a lot of is, if you're publishing content into multiple repositories, that could be SharePoint, it could be Google Drive, you could even be publishing it into Teams, and let's not get started on that platform. And if these individuals are downloading content to their desktops, you now have multiple places where your content has gone to, and that's not really helping people at all. And especially if the conversation changes with some of these salespeople and their sales conversations, they have to dive into multiple places to find the content that they need. More importantly, if you're spending time, effort, budget on various pieces of content, how do you know it's even being used? You know, I've heard of companies buying, you know, thousands of pounds worth or thousands of dollars or euros on interactive content and just dropping it onto a drive and have no idea if it's actually helping the salespeople close deals, or if it's even being shared to their customers. And then what happens is that the sales teams start creating their own content. And you probably noticed I've started smiling already about this, because I used to be one of those salespeople. I was creating content on my own, signing up to some of these like prezzies and stuff like that, creating my own presentations, using the wrong logos, the wrong branding, because I didn't know if our marketing team actually had content. So yeah, I was out there developing my own stuff. And that's not really good, especially if you're in industries like, you know, financial industry, or you're in a life science space. Your content has to meet certain compliance, right? And if your reps are out there using non-compliant material, it could get you into a lot of trouble, but also make you look silly if you get called out about a logo that is incorrect or is no longer a customer. So what do you need to start helping your sales team sell better? Well, one example of the myth of the empowered buyer happened to me only just a week ago. So I had a telecommunications company reach out to us, came to me, I look in after the telco space. And what they had thought was that Bigtincan was a marketing automation platform. So we're talking about automation here on this call. And they thought we could do something similar to Marketo. But actually, after doing a bit of discovery and asking some questions and understanding what that buyer was after, they were actually after an automation platform and not a sales enablement solution. But this really resonated with this talk because they had done their research, had read information, had looked at forums, Google searches, and thought that Bigtincan could help them. The funny thing is, we're actually a Marketo customer. So, you know, we're not competing, and we don't offer what they do. You also need to start thinking, what do our sellers need in order to give customers a better buying experience? Is it how they present content? Is it how they can find other relevant pieces of information to help facilitate that conversation? How do they know it's the right content for the right sales scenario? Are you using content like case studies, ROI, too early in the call? It might be too early straight away, but you just don't know if your content is in several different places. But also, how is it being delivered? You know, is it being delivered, dropped into an email? Is it into Teams? You know, we want to be able to deliver this directly to our end users to allow them to start challenging these empowered buyers. I can't see my last slide because the camera's in the way, but I know what it is anyways. How do you measure the effectiveness of content? So is it helping salespeople? Is it hindering them? You know, we need to start understanding, if we're hiring new people and we know that this content is really effective, well, let's start sharing that knowledge with them. And guess what will happen? They'll have better conversations with people and will help them ramp. And that's what we all want to know. So when it comes to ultimately helping our teams, and we think about that slide we just seen 2 slides ago about all the different problems that I hear from speaking to people like you, is you want to start being able to provide our customer-facing teams, well, a single source of truth. And we want to be able to understand, you know, how do we want a platform that gives us analytics on our content. We want a solution that has the ability to house all of our content in one single pane of glass. We want to be able to start thinking about how do we tie that content that we spend a lot of money on? How do we tie that to opportunities that we're winning? And we want to be able to give our customer-facing teams the ability to search for content if the conversation changes. So for example, after speaking with one of my new sales reps, he was able to use a solution that I'm talking about to help him as the conversation changed with the customer, because he actually unearthed other pain points in the conversation about something else that they hadn't actually inquired about. And if you're anything like my company, Bigtincan, we went for a rebrand not too long ago. But if you're having to update one document or rebrand all your documents, imagine you're having to do that in 4 different places. A nightmare. So you want to start thinking of, is there a solution out there that can help us do it once and once only? So I just want to talk about this particular case study from one of our customers, Thermo Fisher. Thermo Fisher have, I think it's roughly around 100,000 different products, pieces of content for products that they sell inside of Bigtincan. Now, they also have about 50,000 users on the platform. And as you can see here, what Jasmine says is that Bigtincan was not only able to provide a simpler and more efficient way for the sales force to maintain materials, but it also made it possible to house their own information and share information. It also allowed them to cut down the downtime in home office and enable the sales force to spend more time in front of their customers and peers. So by being able to implement a solution that was able to help them understand what content is effective, what content they should be used in the right sales scenario at the right time, is all housed in one single source of truth for them to go and get it, it actually gave them an uplift in 5% of productivity across the sales staff. Because it was empowering their sellers, allowing them to give the right information to the right buyers at the right time, really being able to challenge those empowered buyers that they're dealing with on a regular basis. So if you can imagine, just even that increase in your seller's productivity, what knock-on effect can that have on your business? It could be quite impactful. So I'm just coming towards the end of sort of these slides, and I just want to sort of make you all think about, how are we going to help our team challenge the myth of the empowered? And I guess the final thoughts is, as a salesperson, I guess this isn't just about marketing, this is about sales and marketing working together. It's not just enabling the customer-facing teams with better content, better looking assets that demonstrates thought leadership. It's about giving them the power and the tools to become a trusted facilitator in this ever complex buying process. That it just keeps on getting longer and longer for some industries, not saying all, but it does become quite complicated. So the moral really of this story and sort of the myth of the empowered buyer is, empower your people to tell your story better. And I think that's what I'll finish on today. And I guess, Richard, that's my presentation for today. And I would like to thank you all for listening, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah, a couple here that I want to put by you. This first one is about just how marketing automation can be, like how particularly can you really be depending on a company's needs?
Sorry, Richard, the line broke really badly then. I didn't capture all of the question.
That's okay. I think there are a few people experiencing electrical storms in the UK, I know, especially at the minute. So it may be
just thunder in here just before this call.
There we are, you see. Yeah, so the question's about just how customizable marketing automation can be depending on a particular person's needs.
So I guess it comes down to, the way that you can use, automation through the deliverability of content, the marketing content to sellers is, you can really start to drive down into who they sell to, how they sell, what products, what region, what language they're in. So if you're able to automate a deliverable Yeah, come back in. If you're able to automate the deliverability of content to those customer-facing teams automatically, you're not having to publish it in loads of different places. You can use a system like Bigtincan to do it for you.
Okay, yeah, that makes a bit more sense. Another question is about marketing automation providing API support. How well does marketing automation support API?
Yeah, a good question. So I think, with how you can directly link with a solution like what Bigtincan can offer with marketing automation platforms like how we do it. So through Marketo is it does have that integration where it can understand what the buyer is interested in, what research they've been picking up, what have they been consuming, and it can then start to give that type of information back to the customer-facing rep by providing them with the most effective piece of content to then have a better conversation when they come in.
And just give us some examples, if you can, particular examples of that content per se. There was a question here about just trying to open up and expand a little bit on the idea of what we mean by content in this context. Yeah,
so content could be any of what you call your customer-facing material. So there's that brochures, PDFs, videos, case studies. So that's what I mean by content.
And this last one, I mean, you spoke about that idea of challenging the myth of empowered buyers, but now I suppose you're handing the power over to the team. Is that challenging empowered buyers simply by doing that now? Is that the way that you take on that myth?
I think really taking on the myth is just ultimately when it comes back to understanding through effective discovery calls and ultimately empowering the salespeople to be able to challenge those people when they come in and understanding, why are we speaking today? You've done all your research, but what is it that's actually made you reach out to us? Like, why are we on this call? And really understanding what the problems are, because they might have a perception of what their problem is. And that's when they do the research to empower themselves to know that you are the company for us to go and speak to. But actually, if we just start taking away some of the leaves, I guess, you'll start to unearth the real problems, and it allows me as a seller to be more empowered because I can start to help educate you on what's best for you to make a better decision.
I think it's fascinating, that idea that the buyer doesn't necessarily know as much as we assume. And then once you see things from that angle, you probably start seeing the ways, simple or complicated, that you can help yourself as a business. Some really good points there, Adam. Thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you for sharing the presentation as well.
No problem. Thanks very much for having me, Richard.
Thank you to you, Adam. I'm going to move us on to our next keynote now, which is going to be with Francesco Guerrieri, who is Enterprise Account Executive for EMEA at CleverTap, who of course are our silver sponsor today. Francesco's worked for several MarTech companies in the last 4 years. He's passionate about technology, business and marketing strategies as well. He's also currently leading the expansion for CleverTap in that EMEA region that he's working in at the minute. This conversation is all about how to evaluate and adopt your next marketing technology. Lots to think of. Francesco, I hope you can hear us all right. How are you?
Super good. Thanks for having me here, and thanks a lot for the introduction, Richard. I think you gave a very, I would say, a good introduction, and there is nothing left for me, so I can move forward. I also want to say that I really liked Adam's presentation, so I think he said something right, especially when it comes to like understanding what your need is, because that's what I want to talk about today. So as you mentioned, the topic today is how to evaluate and adopt your next marketing technology stack. So the way in which I would like to structure this session is I would like to have an open conversation, 5 to 7 minutes, and then I would like to talk about how CleverTap can actually bridge that gap in terms of like retaining the customer, engaging with the customer at the right time, and then I would like to take all of your questions at the end of the session. So let's start. So that's a very important question when it comes to buying a piece of software. Of course, when you purchase a software, it's not like purchasing something transactional. And that's an important point when it comes to understanding the technology you want to buy. The reason is because you can't easily get rid of the technology if it doesn't work, right? So that's something that you should be evaluating upfront when it comes to buying a new product. So, and the way in which you can do that is by, first of all, understanding your goal. Of course, as Adam mentioned earlier, sometimes what happens is that the buyer doesn't really know what the end goal is. And so as an enterprise account executive, my job is to help the client understand what type of problem they have and what types of solutions are available in the market to bridge that specific gap. So understanding your goal is crucial when it comes to purchasing a software, because most of the time what happens is there are similar tools in the market, and from the outside it looks like you can actually bridge your gap by going with all of those tools, when the reality is actually a bit different. From the UI perspective, the tool in itself might look similar, but at the end of the day, there are different features that you can leverage in order to achieve what you need. And so evaluating the goal is crucial, and being upfront from the expectation standpoint is also important, right? What are you trying to achieve by implementing that piece of software? Another important analysis you should run when it comes to understanding the type of tech stack you want to implement is, what's my current tech stack? How can I deploy an external third-party service within what I already have, right? How can I make sure that those tools can communicate with each other in a seamless way? And that's another important question that a buyer should ask before evaluating any sort of tech stack. Another important piece is what the integration process looks like. That's an important question, because most of the time, especially if the product in itself is a complex software, you want to understand how easy it's for you to deploy that piece of tech and what's the effort required in that sense, in order to make sure that you can actually achieve what you want to in a short period of time. That's very important. And another dilemma that I usually see in the market is like the dilemma building versus buying, right? That's an important thing that you have to evaluate, because of course there are pros and cons in both scenarios, but at the same time, it's important to understand the cons of both, right? When it comes to building an in-house solution, of course, you can save the money. You can make sure that the solution can be built according to your needs. But at the same time, there are several important questions that you should ask to yourself. Like, for example, how long it takes to do that? What's the effort required? What do I need to do to keep the thing up and running? Because it's not all about building the solution, but another important crucial thing is, how can I keep the tech stack up and running in order to not make that tech stack obsolete further down the line? And that's a problem that it can be solved by going with a third-party solution, because of course, if you go with a specialized company, you can make sure that that provider can keep things up to date, up and running, and that's another important thing that you want to evaluate. So when it comes to solving the dilemma building versus buying, another important thing that the buyer should keep track of is what's the feature release roadmap? Is this company releasing features every quarter, every 6 months, every year? And that's an important thing when it comes to finding the right long-term partner, because you don't want to go with a solution that might become obsolete in a matter of 2 quarters, 3 quarters. And so you want to make sure that the provider is actually investing the right amount of money when it comes to developing the solution in the long run. Another important question in my opinion, is how easy is to use this tool, right? Because you want to avoid the fact that you might deploy a tech stack that is hard to understand and to use. The UI is not very user friendly, and so you are actually solving the problem of going with a third-party provider, and you are solving the problem of not building the thing in-house. But at the same time, you are basically making the job of the marketeer harder, because of course, if you have a very non-user friendly UI, it means that you need further assistance to keep running your campaigns, and that's something else you want to keep in mind. Another important question, in my opinion, is what about the scale? What's the scale we are talking about in terms of softwares? So just to give a sense of what of the CleverTap scale, there are currently 1.7 billion mobile devices across the globe linked to the CleverTap platform. So you might find different solutions in the market able to bridge the same gap that we do, but at the same time, when it comes to scale this up, you can't really achieve what you want to achieve, because you might need additional SLA when it comes to delivering the message, or you might need a more robust infrastructure to be able to send the messages to markets that are not served by the local servers and data centers. So there are multiple things that you have to evaluate. For example, let's assuming that you are looking for a push notification provider. A good question to ask the provider is, hey, are you also serving, I don't know, the Chinese market, for example? I want to expand to that specific market. And so there are certain regulations that apply to the Chinese market, and not all of the providers are actually able to deliver your messages and campaigns to that specific market due to their infrastructure. So those are all critical questions you might want to ask to make sure that the infrastructure is actually there and it can be scaled at the right time. For example, here at CleverTap, we have a feature called push amplification, which is nothing but the ability to trigger your campaigns on different networks if the AWS network, for example, is not able to reach the Chinese market. And so in that case, our infrastructure is going to be linked to a Xiaomi network, for example. And in that case, we can make sure that we can dramatically improve the delivery rate of that specific campaign. So that's another question you want to keep in mind. Another important question is how many out-of-the-box integrations you have, right? Because you can always leverage the APIs, you can always leverage webhooks, which is great. But at the same time, if you can get access to a platform where you can access multiple out-of-the-box integrations, that makes a big difference in terms of deployment time, in terms of ease of integration. So there are multiple things that you have to evaluate in that sense when it comes to the integration itself. Another important piece, in my opinion, is what's the level of support provided, right? Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, when it comes to purchasing a software, it's not like purchasing a transactional item, or it's not like purchasing a car where you can easily fix your problems further down the line by relying on any other external support, right? The importance of having a personalized support is crucial when it comes to scaling your business, because you don't want to get a generic support, right? You want to get something that is strictly tied to your specific use case. And if the provider is not able to provide you with that specific personalized support, you can't get the most out of the platform itself. You are not able to discover the capabilities needed in order to achieve what you have to achieve. And so that's something crucial as well, in my opinion. And then another important thing is the data handling process. So how would you handle the data? How would you treat my data? Do you have access to the data? Do you transfer the data outside of Europe? Are you GDPR compliant? Are you going to resell the data? How can I make sure that I can import the data from multiple sources and not lose accuracy in that specific instance? So that's why CleverTap exists. Here at CleverTap, we are basically solving a very unique problem in the market. And the problem is actually very common. So especially if the organization is complex, and so there are multiple departments that you have to get on the same page, or if the organization has multiple tech stacks that you need to combine. A key problem in the market that I would say nobody is able to solve at this stage is, how can I make sure that I won't lose accuracy when it comes to integrating multiple tech stacks, right? Because most of the time what happens is you import the data from one source and then you export the data to another source. And it's very common to see in a lack of accuracy in terms of data. So here at CleverTap, we are solving this problem. And how are we solving this problem? It's actually very simple. When it comes to engaging with your clients, there are multiple, I would say, tech stacks needed in order to make sure that you can maximize your engagement with your users. So you might need an attribution tool, you might need a segmentation tool, you might need an analytics tool, you might need an engagement tool, or A/B testing tool. The unique problem we are solving here is we are able to offer a centralized dashboard where you can basically take care of your entire engagement with no need for you to purchase multiple tech stacks. And in that case, you don't need to be worried about the accuracy of the data, because CleverTap runs on just one data lake, which means that as soon as you import the data, as soon as you pull the data, then you won't lose accuracy because you don't need to import data from any other tech stack. So very quickly, I want to just share the interface just to show you what I'm talking about very quickly. So as you can see, CleverTap is actually a combination of multiple tools, as I mentioned. We provide clients with analytics, segmentation, campaigns across 13 different channels. So let me show you this. And that's a very common problem in the market, right? Usually companies, they tend to buy different pieces of tech for all of those parts of the engagement. Is there any question there? Cool. So moving forward, as I said here, as you can see, we can provide clients with 13 different channels. We provide clients with 7 different types of analysis that they can run. We can provide you with RFM, so our AI-based segmentation, which is the ability to understand your champions users, your loyal clients, your at-risk ones, hibernating clients. You can see how the user flows from one category to another. How many users went from champions to inactive in the last day, week, or month? And all of these analyses that you can run are actionable analysis. So it means that you can easily click on this segment and you can create a campaign directly from here. So the platform in itself solves this problem. We can provide you with multiple tech stacks from a centralized dashboard, and you don't need to be worried about running multiple integrations. So of course, this is the major problem we are solving, but if I have to talk about the marketeer perspective, CleverTap in itself exists because we help companies to improve their retention rate and we help companies decrease the install rate. So the importance of engaging with the client at the moment that is most relevant helps you boost your retention strategy, helps you boost the engagement, helps you drive those conversations that are relevant when it comes to converting the users. And so that's why CleverTap exists. You can easily use this tool to leverage an omni-channel strategy and to engage with the user at the moment that is most relevant with the user. The company itself was founded in 2013. As I mentioned, we currently work with more than 10,000 mobile apps across the globe. And there are 1.7 billion mobile devices linked to the CleverTap platform. So when it comes to analyzing, okay, what's the MarTech tool that I need in order to make sure that I can achieve my long-term goals? And when I was talking about scale and reliability, those are the type of data that you have to analyze. How many companies are actually working with this provider? How many devices are currently linked to that specific platform? So when I mentioned 1.7 billion devices, we are talking about 1/3 of the total mobile active devices across the globe, which means that the scale is huge, the scale is massive. The platform itself, as I mentioned, is a combination of multiple tools. So you can drive your long-term retention strategy by leveraging multiple channels. You can orchestrate all of those channels by using our automation. You can use real-time actionable analytics in order to make sure that you engage with the user at the moment that is most relevant for that user in itself. And you can also unify customer profiles, right? You can import all of your data, and you can basically leverage a mix of user profile properties as well as user behavioral data in order to make sure that you can slice and dice into the user behavior even further, and you can trigger the right message at the right time. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Thanks a lot for listening to my presentation. I'm happy to take questions.
Great, Francesco, thank you for that. There are a couple of questions that have come in that you might be able to elaborate on a little bit more. This first question says, do you think marketing automation can aid retention fully? How much of an impact do you think it will have there?
That's a good question. So the reality about having a digital tech tool in place is that it's not like the traditional advertising, right? Where you can measure the ROI. The good thing about having a MarTech tool is that you can actually measure the number of users that you were able to convert and retain in real time. So you can actually leverage the data and see how many users you were able to convert over a specific period of time according to your conversion event. So it's something that, so you can actually see in real time how your campaign was actually impacting your overall retention strategy. So for example, here at CleverTap, we have a feature called System Control Group, right? So you can target a small portion of users who will never receive a campaign. And you can then compare that specific set of users with someone who will receive the campaign. And you can actually see the real impact of that specific campaign in terms of engagement, click rates, impressions, open rate, and so on.
Okay, those stats are likely to help people more and more going forward, obviously. This other question, I mean, you mentioned the number of mobile devices, 1.7 billion, I think it was.
Yeah.
What do you see a particular way that mobile marketing automation will go? The question is, what do you see as the future? I mean, we could be here for a long time on that, but are there particular elements you see now that you think have got potential to really change the space?
That's a very good question. So to be honest, I see companies moving towards the automation piece of things, right? So the automation is becoming more and more important. What I mean by that is that marketeers are looking for solutions that can kind of discard that specific, like I would say, manual effort required in order to keep campaigns up and running. So I see the landscape moving forward and towards that specific thing. So automation is an important thing. The ability to A/B test things is becoming more and more important in the market. So you want to see what could be what could be like the outcome of a specific action before running the campaign in itself. So A/B testing, I would say, automation is something else. And then I can see that companies are moving towards mobile more and more.
There's no doubt it's forming part, really important part of everyone's campaigns now, is there? Okay. Francesco, thank you very much for your presentation today. Great to have you with us, and thank you for the demonstration of the product as well.
Thanks a lot for having me here.
So yes, thank you very much to Francesco from CleverTap. We're going to take ourselves a short break now. When we come back, 3 more keynotes to bring you, and our panel discussion as well. Very soon we'll be talking about how enterprise companies are driving sales transformation with AI, and that will be in a couple of minutes' time. See you shortly.
CAN platform is purpose-built to help organizations deliver buying experiences that are valuable and help customers make the best decisions. Whether it's training your individual contributors, delivering the perfect sales content, or facilitating meetings with customers, the Bigtincan platform gives you the confidence that your customer-facing teams are buyer-ready. The platform consists of 3 hubs that come together to form a complete solution. Learning Hub, a system of action to receive training and coaching to prepare customer-facing teams that adapt to individuals' learning preferences. Content Hub, a system of action to create, personalize, and interact with digital assets containing an organization's proprietary offerings and knowledge. Engagement Hub, a system of action for customer-facing teams to interact with buyers remotely or in person and measure their responses in real time. Underlying each of the hubs is our proprietary automation technology that continuously adapts based on your processes, compliance rules, and data, with real-time analytics to predict and suggest next best actions. The solution is flexible. You can pick 1, 2, or all 3 depending on your needs. And we can help you personalize any hub to your brand and unique style. Below, you can dig into the Bigtincan platform deeper. Or if you prefer, let's talk. This is the buying experience of the future.
With dozens of mobile marketing platforms to choose from, more than 10,000 global brands across industries trust CleverTap to increase user retention and customer lifetime value. So what sets us apart? With CleverTap, growth teams get real-time analytics, a powerful segmentation engine, and a suite of engagement tools to create an amazing mobile experience. Our platform also offers the unmatched scale that enterprise mobile brands need to grow, processing over 10 billion data points and sending over 2 billion communications every day. Visit clevertap.com to learn more and get a personalized demo.
Right then, our short break is over, and I'm going to get us back on with our running order for today, where we're going to now move on to what is our 4th keynote for today's webinar. Excuse me. This is going to come from Romina Guevara, who is Chief Digital Officer for Amerique Centrale Michelin. She's recognised as one of the top 100 women in fintech right now. She's a global manager with over 18 years of experience in digital adoption, digital payments, digital strategy, and fintech, and she has a strong background in digital transformation, digital products, and sales. She's currently Chief Digital Officer, as we said, at Central America region for Michelin. Romina, hopefully you can hear us all right. We're talking about how enterprise companies are driving sales transformation with AI. Hopefully you can hear us okay, Romina. There you are. You all right?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you. Perfect. Great to have you. I'll just check we can see your presentation, but it looks like something's happening there, which is a good sign. Yeah, we've got a little image there. You can go into full presentation mode with that one, and then you can take it away. I can leave it with you.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah, that looks fine. Off you go.
Okay, just give me a second. Okay, problems, technical issues. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about that.
So can you see the presentation now?
We can see it in its entirety. Yeah, you probably want to go straight into that presentation mode you were in a second ago, and then we can just see the individual slide. That's better. Yeah.
Okay, but do you have it? Because I cannot see my notes. Okay, so sorry.
Just stand by. We'll make sure we've got it all up before you start. Romina, just to check, is it a presentation we're sharing for you, or are you sharing it directly from your laptop there?
Can you share it for me?
We should be able to, if you just maybe give us a couple of seconds. Hopefully the guys can share the presentation for you back at Group Futurista HQ.
Yes, it's just on it.
Great. I'll just give that a couple of seconds and then hopefully we should be away. Almost there, that's a good sign.
That's great.
Good. Okay, Romina, looks like it's all over to you.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I know we are all over the world, so for me it's good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for me to have the chance to share a little bit of my experience with you today. My name is Romina Guevara. I am the Chief Digital Officer of Michelin for the Central America region. And I have been working in digital transformation for the last 9 years or so. And before that, I had a solid career in sales. And that's why I'm super excited about the topic of this conversation, technology and sales. So today we are going to talk about how companies are driving sales transformation using artificial intelligence. But first of all, what do we mean with artificial intelligence? Next one, please. Thank you. So we have heard this term before, but what is artificial intelligence? AI is a science that in the past years has helped us a lot to enter a new era. It has impacted our lives and has inspired many new hopes. And this science lets machines perform faster and sometimes even better than a human being. And AI is not a single technology, you know, it involves different technologies such as machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, and more. And AI is now changing the way we work in every field, from cars, for example, here in Michelin, tires, to healthcare, marketing, e-commerce, technological devices, and more. And it's making our lives easier by facilitating our everyday tasks. Thank you. Next. Okay, next. Okay, next, Richard. Thank you. Okay, so contrary to what we see in the movies, for example, in sci-fi, or contrary to what you might think, the purpose of artificial intelligence is not to replace human beings, is not to replace sales reps, but to make their work easier, their lives easier. For example, AI can be used for helping sales reps to automate repetitive tasks, such as data entry and meeting scheduling, or even complicated jobs that do not require personal relationships, like sales forecasting, for example. Also, it can be used for enabling them to prioritize more effectively and becoming a better salesperson by highlighting patterns in customer responses. Also, it can provide team leaders or managers with detailed analytics on all communications between sales reps and potential clients or current clients, including emails, phone calls, chats, whatever you want to follow. It can be done with AI. It is important to mention that there are many AI applications, so having the business priorities clear is key to success. Sometimes we want to make lots of different things, but if we don't know where to start, if we don't know what our priorities are, then, well, we are not going to take the most of this technology. Okay. Thanks. Next. Well, this technology can automate and augment much of the sales process. And as a result, salespeople are free to focus on what matters the most. And you know what it is? That is obviously closing the sale. That's what they should be doing and not wasting time on other things. And despite this huge improvement, as I mentioned before, AI is not replacing salespeople. In fact, the vast majority of the companies using AI or planning to are also planning to increase staff. And that is because AI is creating practical value for sales team by giving them what I call like kind of superpowers, because today there are several real world use cases and tools that are being used and that are empowering our sales reps or our sales force. Okay. And with all this information, you could say, okay, that's great, but where do I start? Where does a company begin to use the power of artificial intelligence? And what I can say is that you know that sales is hard, and also conversion rates are sometimes low, and the sales cycle is longer. And that's why starting with a sales department is a great idea. It's going to give us a huge benefit. And artificial intelligence can help improve these sales processes. And according to a study of the Harvard Business Review, companies using AI in sales were able to increase their leads by more than 50%. They were able to reduce call time by 60 to 70% and realize cost reductions of 40 to 60%. So with this, what I can say or what I can mention is that AI is making us possible to improve the way in which we are working. And with AI, we can automate the whole sales process. And in this image, in your screen, we have a general view of how artificial intelligence can help throughout the sales process, starting with crawling the web to match new customers with existing ones, to identify patterns, to identify some similarities between them. Also, we can use it to calculate the perfect moment for salespeople to call a new lead or to send the right email with the right message. It can also help us to cross-sell the right product for the right person, personalizing, for example, the content of data of the message that we are sending, or even predicting which price will work on which customer, making a personalized offer of our product or service. And last but not least, it can also help us to improve customer engagement. AI can have an impact in every stage of the sales process. Okay, so now what we are going to see is we are going to review some examples of how the artificial intelligence can help to improve sales processes. Let's start with the first one, with forecast sales more accurately. And well, next one, please. Thanks. So AI will allow us to make automatic and more accurate sales forecast. And this is because these forecasts are going to be based on all customer contacts and on previous sales outcomes. We are going to make decisions based on facts. The next one that we can mention is help sales reps with leads. Better prioritization can enable sales reps to better use their time. AI systems can help us to leverage data from hundreds of sales reps to understand the factors that increase a prospect's likelihood to buy and help our sales reps to focus on the right prospects. It can also help us to generate leads and to determine the priority of those leads. These platforms score customers' likelihood of converting, and this is done based on third-party and also on company data, allowing us and allowing our sales reps to prioritize effectively. What else can be done? Personalized sales content. AI, it's a huge advantage for personalizing sales content, because once priority customers are decided, sales reps can serve them better with sales content personalized to their needs and preferences. Leads engagement rate will increase dramatically. I can tell you that with personalized content. We are not sending the same message to everyone. We are sending the right message to the right person. And also about making better decisions. That is the next one, please. AI will help us to analyze valuable information to suggest the best action or the best response. It will also sync data from various sources effortlessly and intelligently, better than ourselves. And it is going to put that information into the CRM, helping sales reps and managers to make better decisions based on data. We can also use this to improve conversations with digital assistants and chatbots. AI will suggest responses during live conversations or written messages with leads. And there are studies that claim that chatbots can increase sales by 67% on average. And that is because a sales chatbot can help break the ice with a personalized message, making it easier for the customer to either engage at that moment, or if he wants or if she wants, she can return to the chat later. And the algorithms of the artificial intelligence technology can also create customized emails that are specific to a person and help sales reps outreach prospects without wasting time writing numerous emails one by one. We can use digital assistants to do this. And also about improving salary. Before to the previous one, please. Yes, the last one. It's to improve sales analytics and performance management. And that's because AI can help us to analyze customers' information to understand what behaviors and actions drive sales. Sometimes we believe that we know what is going to drive sales, but sometimes we're just guessing. With this, we are going to make decisions based on past behaviors, past actions, and with data. And for example, machine learning tools can help us to scrape the web automatically to gather data on competitors and provide pricing recommendations. So we can capture data not only from ourselves, but also from the market and also from our competitors. So what are we doing in Michelin? Well, artificial intelligence in Michelin is part of the group's pillars, and one of these pillars is digitization, is one of the priorities, and we are encouraging the use of this technology throughout the group, particularly through what we call learn by doing, and this is to create new internal and external knowledge, for example, with customer relations, market information, and to create, to define new potential business models. We are using AI in all the areas of the company. We are developing them in certain departments such as research and development, supply chain, and product delivery. And obviously, industry, you know that one of our strengths is the product. So we are working with digital manufacturing and predictive maintenance as well. But well, coming back to sales process improvement, I can mention the Engage program. The Engage program uses Salesforce as one of the most important tools. And for those of you, maybe you haven't heard about Salesforce, I think you do, but Salesforce is a customer relationship management platform that aims to enhance both employees and customers' experiences. And what are we doing with Engage and Salesforce? With regard to customers, the program lets them collaborate in real time using a single tool to promote the discussion and one single point. And for employees, Salesforce provides real-time information to give sales reps a single point of entry for their entire orders and deliveries. We also have what we call the product screen solution, and this solution integrates artificial intelligence with the system, making recommendations based on an analysis of clients' histories and needs. So this has been a huge success inside Michelin because we are taking advantage of this technology, not only in supply chain or in manufacturing, but also in our daily sales and our daily lives. We are reducing the time that we are spending on other activities with no value, no added value, and we are focusing on selling. So that's why this Salesforce is helping us a lot, and we are including not only information of Salesforce, but also artificial intelligence that is helping us to analyze the information that we have in Salesforce to make informed decisions. And well, these new technologies are now all around us. We cannot stop it. The change in the future is now. So I know they have begun transforming the way we live, the way we work, the way we make decisions, and the way we do business. But to be honest, we are only just getting started. Other changes are still to come and will likely be even bigger than Díaz. Okay, so that's it from my side. I don't know if you have, questions?
Yes, Romina, a couple of questions for you here. A question here generally about if marketing automation is suitable for small businesses. Does the size of the organization matter about how effective it can be?
Not really, because technologies are here to help everyone. The only thing is we need to take what works for us. We are not going to implement everything that is in the market, and we can implement the basic part of marketing automation and start scaling it if we need it. But we can start with something small. Making some testing inside the company to see if this is helping us or not, maybe introducing small changes to see the impact on our daily jobs, and if it works, then we can start scaling depending on our business needs. But I think it's not correct to believe that technology works only for big companies, because it's here to help everyone to adapt to our needs.
And this other question here says, do you agree that marketing automation is the best AI tool for boosting growth?
Well, it's technology by itself cannot change our company. We need to complement technology with other tools. So marketing automation by itself is not going to solve our problems. If we don't know what to do with that information, if we don't know what is the message that we want to share, if we don't know when, or if we don't have a clear strategy of what we're going to do, obviously it's not going to be the best. What I can say is that if we have it, we can use it, and it's going to help us a lot. It's not the only thing that exists in the market. It's the most common right now, but is the one that we have more information about, so we are more familiar with. So yes, we can start with that, but it's not going to be the solution by itself.
Okay, well said. Thank you for your presentation today, and thank you for being with us for the conversation.
You're welcome.
There you go. That's Romina Guevara, who's from Michelin, talking to us about sales transformation using AI. We're going to go on to talk about improving campaign effectiveness with marketing automation shortly. That's after a short message from the guys at CleverTap.
With dozens of mobile marketing platforms to choose from, more than 10,000 global brands across industries trust CleverTap to increase user retention and customer lifetime value. So what sets us apart? With CleverTap, growth teams get real-time analytics, a powerful segmentation engine, and a suite of engagement tools to create an amazing mobile experience. Our platform also offers the unmatched scale that enterprise mobile brands need to grow, processing over 10 billion data points and sending over 2 billion communications every day. Visit CleverTap.com to learn more and get a personalized demo.
Okay, then I'm going to move you on to our next keynote now, which comes from Adriana Pirela, who is Chief Marketing Officer at Digicel Financial Services. She's an executive with over 20 years experience of leading all aspects of marketing, that's brand, channel and digital. She's in her current role implemented global high impact marketing campaigns. These campaigns have influenced and changed customer behavior on how they perceive and interact with financial services. For example, under Adriana's marketing diligence, Moncash became the preferred mobile wallet in Haiti. She's also had a hand in increasing Digicel's international overall online usage and revenue generation by effectively migrating customers from retail channels to online channels. This was achieved in the midst of the pandemic as well. Our other fintech driver accomplishments include introducing the Sell Money mobile wallet in a low literacy market like PNG and accelerating customer acquisition through educational campaigns. Since the beginning of her career, Adriana has been driven by a desire to make technology accessible and easy to understand for customers in emerging markets. Millions of people have been from educational campaigns and initiatives she's led and implemented over her career. Great to have someone with so much experience with us today. Adriana, I hope you can hear us all right. We're looking forward to your conversation about how to improve campaign effectiveness with marketing automation.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for such an introduction. Yes, definitely. Let's get this party started.
I'll let you know when we can see that presentation and then you can get going.
Let me know when you see it on presentation mode. Do you know?
Yep, looks good. Carry on.
Okay, so let me move things around here. My desktop a little bit. You might see me here. So definitely, we all know for a fact that marketing automation will improve campaign effectiveness. But do we know how to build a compelling story on how to sell campaign automation and automation within your organization? I'm sure many of you are struggling trying to sell automation to your organization and executive teams. So hopefully the case I'll present to you today about digital financial services will be a good example about how to build a compelling story to cater non-marketers and senior executives within your organization in a simple business-oriented way. So just to talk a little bit about our background and who we are. Digicel is an Irish telecommunications and entertainment group with presence in 32 markets. And in an effort to look for diversifying revenue generation sources, they decided to enter into the financial technology and money transfer game. That is how Digicel Financial Services was born. Digicel Financial Services manages 7 mobile wallets across the Pacific and the Caribbean, as you well said, as well as a very lucrative business to cater the diaspora needs. In terms of our challenges, first things first, we have to start by telling you that the markets that we operate in are very different among themselves. Some of them are extremely poor and with very low literacy levels, as you said. Actually, PNG is a good example of that, with less than 20% literacy. So financial technology was not an easy concept to explain to first-time users. Acquisition happened fast for us, but getting customers to remain engaged and use the platforms on a daily basis was our main challenge. Of course, funding is always limited. And once we acquired a big base of customers, our company expected us to do a lot more for less. I'm sure it is a problem that most of you face every day. As a mobile operator, we had a lot of customer data, but the data was not integrating with the marketing platforms. All marketing platforms were all disconnected from each other, so customers were just getting blasted with tons of annoying messages that they were actually complaining about on our latest NPSs. This solution. Most marketing success stories begin with budget reductions. That is a fact. It's a sad fact, but it is a fact. I believe that challenges lead us to think more strategically and creatively. Our executive team expected us to react very fast, as you can tell, and identified a long-term solution with sustained results. So we did. Marketing automation was the way to go. The reasons why were very simple. I always start my sales pitch with savings and optimization. Our organization was growing rapidly, and we needed to improve conversion rates, use the human resources and time more efficiently, and keep customers engaged. Increasing our reach and servicing customers with the right messages at the key moments within the journey was imperative. And the only way to do it was through automation. When dealing with your CEO, it always goes back to money. And we knew automation would help us improving campaign performance and ROIs. So that is exactly what we promised to David. The true challenge came when we had to present this to our board of directors and our CFO. When presenting to your board of directors or executive committee, you literally have 5 minutes to get their attention. Their attention span is very short, and all they care about is numbers. So you have to develop a clear and simple, believable speech based on factual data and examples. When we got the green light, it was the moment to get this done. So we defined very clear objectives. Once our executive committee was sold on the idea, we had to deliver not only the objectives but the flight plan. Our obvious first objective was to increase the usage of our native communication channels. Once the audience is captive and within your ecosystem, you will be able to convert them at a lower cost than with any other channel or media. Using all the data available to build the most refined segmentation was key to deliver the messages that will keep the customers engaged and ultimately get them to transact not only once, but constantly within our ecosystem. But our data was all over the place and it was impossible to manipulate it in the way it was. So we had to centralize it somewhere. Abandonment was one of our main issues, still sometimes is. So improving our lead generation was key. Ultimately, we were looking to improve, to use the more improved and educated segments that we will create to cater customers with messages that were more relevant for them to digital media as well. Trying to react fast to the business needs sometimes make us try to start implementing without a proper plan in place. We only had one shot, so we couldn't waste any resources. Planning was the only way to guarantee the results. Our plan started with integrating all channels into an omni-channel platform that would allow us to centralize all the data and orchestrate campaigns from one single place. For that, we selected Swerve, a multi-channel customer engagement platform. The next step was to integrate all the platforms with the transactional data available, which was a lot. Using customers' behavioral data was key to build our very refined segments and tailored messaging. Artificial intelligence was the only way to improve conversion rates and constantly A/B test campaigns and messages. Of course, the business will continue to grow, so we saw in Swerve the capabilities to evolve with us. Ultimately, cookie deprecation is ahead of us, so we hired Oracle, which platforms are already integrated with Swerve, to provide us with a DMP. Oops, sorry. So, the success of our strategy relied heavily on identifying those key moments within the customer journey and attack our customers right there. We also took segmentation to a deeper level. The more relevant the messaging, the bigger the chance to get the customers to transact. So we went as deep on segmentation as the data available allowed us. We tailored triggers like identifying a low balance customers while passing by one of our caching locations and service them a message right there, which could be life-changing for a product like us. Of course, we improve our digital media customer journey as well. And as expected, being a new product in the market, a lot of our focus was at the top of the funnel. The new approach allows us to do a better job at the middle and bottom of the funnel to accompany the customers from the beginning to the end of the journey. All stories have to end with a happy ending. And Swerve and Oracle allow us to learn from our customers' behavior and service them through channels that converted them the most. We saw a huge increase on revenue generation from email and in general across all our native channels. But most importantly, we identified a new channel that was never used before properly, which is generating us over $5 million a month on incremental revenue from only our apps. It's important to mention that our products are still highly web and USSD based, up to 70%, which means that our apps are still a small channel, and $5 million on incremental revenue just coming from the apps is a huge achievement. The company future is on apps. That's where the company is going after. Why? Because definitely it'll generate data usage for us, and we'll keep our customers engaged with the services that we provide. Going above and beyond, what's next for us? In the near future, we will increase the usage of location-based pushes. For us, that have been magnificent, taking in consideration that our business has a big retail part, right? Customers have to cash in and cash out. And that's the single opportunity where we can get them to transact with the money in their hands. We will also go after testing website pushes, because as I said, our business is still very heavily website-based, especially on the diaspora end. And we will start using also in-app push notifications to apply studies to customers, service them promotional contents, among all. So this story is a story that just started for us. Mobile will become the center of our ecosystem, which I guess is probably where everybody else is heading to. To end, basically, I want to thank to our team, Lázaro Ramos and Norman. Yes, it's a pig. He's part of our team. Lázaro said, Lázaro basically created this strategy and designed the different modules that we were going to move towards to. Eduardo Parra, who is our digital platforms transformation manager, who is in charge of all the messages that you see, all the platforms and the design of all our apps and websites. The team of Palmera, which created all our creativity and helped us with all our media buy. The people from Swerve, thank you so much. I know they're attending today. You guys have been a game changer for this business. They're in charge of our customer strategy and app push notifications and web pushes. And the people from Oracle, Rolls Royce of solutions for email marketing and DMP. That's me.
Thank you very much, Adriana. I've got a few questions here I'd like to put to you. I know shortly you're going to be joining us for our panel discussion, but a couple of specific ones there I just wanted to put to you, if that's okay. The first one is your thoughts on how automated marketing might reduce the amount of work for the marketing department. Is this going to have a big change on workloads? Whether that's a positive or negative thing is another idea, but I think it's going to have a big change on workloads.
It's a huge change for us. At the beginning, we had people managing SMS platforms. We had people managing email marketing, a completely separate team in charge of in-app pushes. And at the moment, what we did is we centralized the team. So we have only a few members of the team dedicated to not only create the messaging and sending it, but also strategizing around the customer journey and making sure that we are not duplicating and blasting customers with the same messages all over.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there is a type of business or a sector perhaps that automated marketing works better for than any others?
I think in general, it could work for any business. In our case, because it's a very digital and e-commerce oriented business, it definitely makes a huge difference because a lot of our interactions with the customers happen digitally. So I think that if your business is going towards that direction, this is definitely the way to go.
And with so many different products and audiences, is there a way, an easy way, a strategic way of identifying a single marketing approach that works across the board?
There's never an easy way. You always have to get very creative. I'm very proud that we have a team that is very creative and always challenging themselves. I think, yes, definitely what you have to do, and this is what we did. We identified those challenges that were overlapping across the different products and platforms. And we tried to come up with a single strategy that would apply to all of them, trying to maximize the efforts and also maximize the resources, which ultimately also led to identifying best practices and sharing knowledge among the different business units.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to squeeze in one more here. It's about it's just about different products and business units. So I suppose different elements of a company or different elements of a business. Can they really benefit from a unified marketing, or is there a point where you still have to take in different inputs from different sections before you can sort of channel things through one source?
Well, as I said, our products are very different. Our markets are very different. The way customers behave and consume products is very different. So yes, definitely we have a unified marketing strategy. We want customers to feel that my cash, Mon Cash, Sell Money are all the same. But ultimately, yes, you have to tailor not only your messages, but the platforms and channels that you're going to use based on the consumption patterns of each one of the markets. For example, for us in the diaspora, email marketing is very heavily used, as well as in app pushes. The public in the diaspora uses apps a lot more than the public in Haiti, for example, versus in Haiti or PNG, our customers are a lot more USSD based, and they'll rely more on SMSs, for example. So I think ultimately it's about trying to find that special need and try to cater the customer in the way that they would like to be serviced, but ultimately trying to standardize the messaging and the strategy across the board so you can maximize the efforts and also get the best value for your buck.
Mm-hmm. It's important to remember, I suppose, isn't it, that different markets require different things, even though you may have a unified marketing solution that would make things easier. For the moment, Adriana, thank you for the moment. I'm going to leave you here because obviously you're part of our panel discussion that we're going to do right now. So Adam is going to rejoin us from Bigtincan, and also joining us is the person who's doing our final keynote today, and that is going to be Elena Benavente Díaz. Now, Elena is a marketing automation manager at COSENTINO. Part of her work consists of developing strategies through the funnel that identifies new business opportunities and linking marketing strategies with the sales team. So a lot of what we're talking there about teams is quite important. Adam from Bigtincan, I'm going to welcome you back first, if that's all right, to start the discussion. There's a few different things we wanted to ask you, but I think there's some sort of specific things to you particularly, I think, that are going to help us kick things off, if that's all right. So Adam, are you back with us now? I think I can see you there. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, just let me start this with you, Adam, first off. Just want to get your thoughts on what you see as the greatest benefits to working with a marketing automations consulting agency or partner. What do you see as the greatest benefits for going that way? Because there probably are pros and cons, I suppose, both sides, but what are the greatest benefits that you see?
I think one of the benefits for you to be able to outsource something like that is it's going to allow the internal, I guess, marketing teams to focus on sort of A/B testing, right? And allowing them to see what the results are. But also, not only that, is really starting to focus on when that person comes through the system, is preparing themselves and the sales team with the right content to be able to facilitate that conversation once that buyer comes through. And that, tie that back to, for example, what we do at Bigtincan is, the marketing team here, when they start to see that sort of lead come through the funnel as such, they're preparing us as customer facing reps with content in that single source of truth to be able to handle those conversations. So I think that is a huge sort of benefit of outsourcing it, letting other people focus on, driving it, the marketers internally seeing what's working, what's not working, and allowing them to, sort of stress test, I guess, and then preparing the buyers and the sellers with the right material.
And what about timing on this? Because obviously it might not be something that everyone's considering straight away, but businesses will get to a point really where they start to consider a partner instead of having an in-house team. It's all very well saying, well, once the workload's got too crazy and we can't handle it, then you farm it out. But there's probably a point before that, isn't there?
Yeah, of course. I think with everything, there's, no matter what sort of type of solution that you're looking at and using, it's really starting to understand what is it that it's going to be too much for us, before we get to that point, and just setting real expectations, internally before starting to engage with outsourced parties. Because if you try running when you can just about walk, well, you know what's going to happen, right? You want to fall over. I think that's quite a big thing to always think about.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Adam, for the minute. Elena, I wanted to bring in you here. I know we're hearing from you shortly as part of our last keynote of the day, but as far as from what you've seen and what you know, do you see any particular elements that are emerging as trends or challenges for the next 12 months in marketing automation?
Well, I think the main challenge of marketing automation is the personalization of the offers. I think that during this summit, many ideas were pulled. I think that I'm not going to repeat something new, because I mean that mostly of you have already said what is common and everything. But I think that the personalization, I mean, that try to be like really on the moment, and try to be really with the content, and try to be really to that personalized target and everything. I mean, that is going to be like the future as well. Like this artificial intelligence, I mean, that is like the future that is coming. I mean, that data-driven decisions and everything is going to make the performance of the next days or the next months of the marketing automation. This is my opinion a little bit.
No, that's great. That's what we want you here for. Adriana, I suppose the same thing to you now. You obviously talked a lot about the use of AI, but are there still going to be any challenges in the next 12 months that will hinder or stop AI progressing as quickly as it might do?
Yeah, I do think so. I think AI is going to allow us to ultimately get to that hyper personalization that Elena is talking about. That is extremely important, because I think our customers are expecting things that are made for them. Actually, Digicel is going towards that route very heavily with our own apps to cater specific audiences, Caribbean music, Caribbean content. And I think the only challenge there that we have to be very careful about is trying not to make our customers feel like we're stalking them, like we're their stalkers, and somehow we understand everything they're doing and we know everything they're doing, because they won't feel comfortable about it. It happens a lot with operators that we know pretty much everything you do on your phone. So yeah, and we don't want to be intrusive. So I think that will be the challenge towards the future, finding that right balance.
Elena, that goes perfectly back to your point, doesn't it, about that idea of personalization, but it has to be done without that encroachment that Adriana's talking about.
Yeah, completely. I think that there are many things that, as I said, I mean, that the presentation was like really amazing. I mean, that there were so many ideas that fits as well to this one. And for example, one of those was like, technology is not everything, and we cannot be intrusive, and we cannot be something like that. I mean, that we have to be within a strategy, and we have to keep as well like the customer behavior doing by their own a little bit. I mean, that we have to keep like the customers living the life a little bit, because sometimes, I mean, that we decide how it's going to be the experience, but this is not going to be the experience that the user chooses somehow. So I think that we have to keep as well like the balance between the strategy, technology, and the customer, and as well like how it's going to be the future. So this is.
Adriana, go on, carry on.
No, I was going to say that definitely the future is going to be exciting. That's a fact, but challenging as well.
Yeah, exactly. I just wonder about, I was going to ask you about when you go to businesses, are there any hypes or myths that you experience more frequently that you're having to explain to business when it comes to marketing automation?
I think the biggest hype will be pretending that automation is going to make it all possible, and that is going to be the only tool that we're going to use. Within our executive team, there's constantly the challenge of sending them more messages, sending them more pushes, service them everything through our apps or email. They're going to convert pretty fast, and ultimately trying to forget the top of the funnel, and ultimately also sometimes trying to encourage customers to consume products that are not ready or that might not be as attractive or without the proper promotional content. So I think what I always try to point out to our executive team is that ultimately we can't forget about the 4 Ps, and definitely we have to make sure that we have not only the right automation tools, not only the triggers and the messages in the right pinpoint moments, but also the products and the promotions that work for our customers.
Elena, are there any particular things that you think people assume about marketing automation that aren't quite correct, but there's obviously a bit of belief changing, a bit of behavioural changing that needs to take place. But do you think there are any particular things that you experience that people dangerously assume about marketing automation?
Well, basically, I think that the thing, mostly of the people assume that this is easy somehow, and it's not easy at all. and it's true. I mean, that, for example, in my experience is like I'm working in digital transformation, and we have been working like for years now. And basically, I mean, that you have to learn during the process is coming. So, and you will see that the maturity of everything is coming with a group. I mean, that you are not alone. I mean, that you can leverage so many things, you can master in many tools, many actions. But I think that is the society has to be as well, like coming with that. And when I say society, I mean the companies are a society as well. I mean that your bosses and everything, the other employees, stakeholders as well. This is a society, and for coming through this digital transformation and to get and to reach the point you want to achieve, I mean that you need the maturity, and you need the maturity as well with the group and with everything. I mean that if you don't have the data, and if you don't have other teams prepared as well, like for doing this marketing automation, I mean that you cannot go through this. And yeah, this is a little bit the point that everyone thinks that, I mean that marketing automation is coming to automate every sales and marketing process, and it's something that, I mean, that takes time as well. I mean that because you have to teach and you have to keep your sales team on board of this process as well, like for being aware about what is coming and what is not coming. And as well, the sales team is going to say to you as well, like something is getting wrong or something is done, it's not well done or something like that. And you need to keep this kind of balance between, I mean, that the society, that is your company, and that everyone is involved on this transformation, and the new technology is coming, but everyone has to be on board on the same page. And I think that this is like one of the parts.
Are there mistakes you've experienced before that you've had to learn from?
Mistakes a lot. I mean that I think that I have been learning by doing. Well, I mean that if you think on that, I mean that marketing automation is like a kind of technology, or well, it's not a technology, but it's a technique that is pretty new. I mean that there were not so many people that is experienced on that. So you have to go through with a tool that maybe you don't know exactly, or that you don't master at all. And there are new tools and new trends on the market. So you have to try sometimes, and you are not really sure about what are you exactly doing. And at the end, I mean that there are some mistakes, but it doesn't matter that there is a mistake. I mean that is a learning inside of that. So I think that those things, I mean, that you have to keep in mind as well.
I also think, Richard, just to sort of jump in there as well, just on sort of mistakes that are seen, I think a lot of people try to automate too quickly when they haven't really understood what is working and what's not working. So it then almost comes off as like this solution doesn't work for us, when actually if you give it enough time and really learn and understand how it's going to benefit you, you'll start to see results. And maybe not using the lead scoring features, probably not good enough. You know, you're talking about sales and marketing combining to work together on this. Well, if you're not setting expectations, from example, a lead scoring perspective, how can you ever send that across to the sales team to manage when they're just going to, you know, chuck it back and then you're at loggerheads again in this whole sales and marketing battle, right? So I think that's sort of some takeaways that I see from some of the mistakes that people make.
Is it generally that idea that people just expect everything to work so quickly and so seamlessly first time around?
Yeah, we have it here, you know. We have it here at Bigtincan. People think that, you know, this is the solution that's going to, you know, take all the problems they've got, but you can only take software so far, but you've also got to set the real expectations yourself from your team, but as a company. And if you can all work to one goal, then the expectations become a reality rather than, like I say, you know, trying to run before you walk.
Another point that I want to add, based on what Adam is commenting, is that organizations start to think that we could do everything through automation. So something that happens constantly here is that we're trying to substitute studying the customer, doing our regular NPSs, doing a regular consumer study by trying to basically replace it with the behavioral data that we get from the automation experience. I always try to fight that back. I always try to tell them, yes, definitely, these tools allow us to understand the consumer behavior, but I don't think they substitute the knowledge that we get from the studies that we do annually, from the NPSs and all these other tools that we use to understand the customer more deeply and also understand their needs, right? I think it's beyond what they do within our platforms, is what they expect from our products and our products portfolio and towards the future. So yes, we cannot do everything through automation.
I want to say something as well. I mean that I really like the things of having like the perfect automation and the perfect things done and everything. But I like as well like the concept of quick and dirty. It sounds crazy a little bit, but sometimes I mean that you as well need to test something like really quick and really dirty. It doesn't matter if this is not perfect. I mean that you need to test something at least to see if there is any results. And then I mean that it's like this kind of agile methodology in somehow. I mean that you have to start with something and then start to improve that. And this small test, this small MVP or something like that you test in your company and brings some results, even if it doesn't are the best result ever, but they give you some empower somehow to talk with other stakeholders and to say, hey, did you see something? And then I mean that we invest some time here, maybe we can go further, or maybe we can achieve better goals as well. So I think that is pretty interesting. I mean that to work and to play a little bit around with those two concepts. I mean that to have the plan of going through the automation thing, I mean that I'm going through your plan, but as well like to test and to try to give a small quick wins that can give you as well like some kind of points to other stakeholders as well, like for giving the discussion to another step.
Is that going to evolve a change in some business culture then, being willing to go through that testing with automation?
I think yes. I mean that mostly of the companies need to test a little bit. I mean that automation at the end is something. It is something that you have to bring somehow in your company. When I have been asked so many times, I mean that what is marketing automation, and what I say always is like automation is like you have a process that is normally done manually, but you have to automate that, and this helps as well like your sales team. For example, if your sales has a visit and he has to send an email to their customer or to his customer just only to say, hey, do not forget about the visit that we have or the meeting that we have and something like that. I mean that he's investing 30 minutes just only for sending that email. But if you have like one sales team and then you scale that to 1,000 sales managers or something like that, I mean that the time that is investing on that is like too much. So automation, I mean that will provide you those tools. I mean that it will make that all the manual efforts will going to be like somehow automated. So I think that, I mean that at the end, the results that you get with the marketing automation is that you are bringing more results with less effort. And the idea basically is like to help your sales team to achieve new goals and to avoid to do like so repeatedly and so many actions that are always done day by day and daily. So we are automating. I mean that you don't really need a really big tool for automating your processes. I mean that there are so many tools that are automating your processes. So marketing automation is somehow a consequence of what is coming. I mean that is the digital transformation tools are going to be prepared for having less efforts and better results. And you don't have to be really a master. The marketing automation is coming just only with the time and with the new tools.
I agree with Elena. I think we're all learning in the learning process. I think we're all testing. Definitely marketing automation requires time. So it's hard to get the executive team to understand that this is like the sun, despacito. So things go slowly but surely. Ultimately, in our case, I think having the opportunity to finally integrate the transactional data into what we do have been key. And without automation, we wouldn't have been able to do that. As Richard well said, we have tons of customers, millions of customers across the globe doing transactions every minute. And having the opportunity to understand what they're doing, how they're transacting, and service them that message that is ultimately going to get them to do the next step or close that transaction. It wouldn't have been possible without automation, and it's the key to the success that we're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is ultimately those results, I suppose, isn't it, Adam, that change culture, but it's getting in before that and making that initial change to start with.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's coming back to getting buy-in from people and getting them to understand the benefits, but not just for one specific department, but how this can affect the whole business, which will only allow them to move forward and sort of change that mindset. You know, we're getting that same mindset where I am. You know, people like doing what they're used to, and when you start enhancing some sort of change, it's like, whoa, hold on a second, we're not doing this, and you got to think to yourself, well, what about the future state? Where do you want to be? You know, X, and this is how it's going to help you get there. And then just by providing case studies and real life examples, it's really going to help sort of those people get buy-in from senior management to help change the culture and the mindset that people have about automation, sales enablement, CRMs. You know, it goes on in all industries.
Yeah. Quite a lot to ask people to do, but at the same time, you know, we really are seeing real change. We really are. Guys, thank you for that. I'm gonna close down our panel discussion here because I'd still like to get Elena's presentation in for us. So Adam, thank you very much for sticking around for that, and also to you, Adriana, as well. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you.
Interesting.
So let's hear from you now, Elena, shall we? Just talking about this idea about the day we decided to migrate. I should just let everyone know, I told us a little bit about Elena's background, but Elena's been in marketing automation as a chapter leader. After studying, she moved to Germany, where she started to work in marketing as a CRM expert for a software as a service company that had more than 1 million users, and that completely changed conception of how the relationship with customers should be and how important it is to understand and measure journeys, needs and pain points. So Elena, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much. And well, I will share my presentation. Just 1 second.
No problem.
Let me see if can you see my screen?
Yeah, that'll look good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now.
There you go. Yeah, that's great. Off you go.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. And the presentation, I think that it was like really interesting for everyone. And I think that so many points were told here in this conversation. Well, my presentation is not going to be so theoretical. It's going to be more practical. I mean, that it was about the last year where we took the decision of migrating from Pardot to Marketing Cloud. So basically, I mean that I want to start a little bit. Well, I will stop here. Okay. So I want to say a little bit like, be careful with what you really wish for, because it can be fulfilled. Okay. I mean that, as I said before, I mean that for us, I mean that migration was like really a headache sometimes, and it was like something that we were working for. For us, it was like the main project of the last year. So, and for my company, and as well like for my team, it was the point where we laid a little bit the foundation of marketing automation. So, as I say, for us, the main complexity was not to use the new tool. And even we didn't know anything about this new tool. I mean that the main complexity was a little bit like how to deal with the stakeholders. If I have to say something about this, or if I have to bring like a solution at the end, I mean, that for me is like we are really proud of what we did, and we are excited of using this new technology. I mean that you get excited like doing new projects and using new technologies and new techniques. So I think that it was like a quite good experience for us. So I want to bring today, I mean, a little bit how was the learning that we had. So maybe if you are thinking on changing your tool, I mean, that you can take some notes or something like that. I mean, that I hope that is practical for you. So basically, I mean, that let me begin a little bit with the beginning of the story. So this is COSENTINO. This is like my company. I mean, that we don't sell anything. Well, no, sorry. I mean that we produce and distribute high value surfaces. I mean that we are not digital at all. So the thing is like, I mean that in 2018, I mean that we started with the digital transformation. I mean that it was like a really, really ambitious project. So fortunately, I had the opportunity like to work for that from the very beginning. So I have seen that. So it's amazing. I like it. And the thing is like, when you talk about the digital transformation, it sounds like really fancy, but what the really transformation, a digital transformation means is like, I mean that it takes years and requires it's changing the culture, you know, in all its layers. And I think that is something that you have to keep in mind, because I mean that things is not going to be done so quickly as you want to. So two big learnings that I have learned from this digital transformation after 4 years is like you are in a constant evolution. I mean that you are in the stone age of a company and you have to bring to the iron age, actually. And this is something that you have to keep in mind. When I am hiring someone, I mean that is something that I always tell to everyone. I mean that you cannot see the past with the eyes of the present. I mean that because in the past, you took some decisions and those decisions were made with information that you had in that moment, but you cannot say and you cannot evaluate with the same information that you have today. So the past is the past. So don't take in consideration what have been done in the past, and take and think on the future a little bit. And the other point is like maturity is a type with a proof. I mean that this is something that I said before. I mean that when you are talking with your sales team has to become digital as well. I mean that it doesn't matter if you have the technology, it doesn't matter if you have the strategy, it doesn't matter, but you have to involve everyone, and everyone has to be like as well, like on board of this digital transformation. And the other part that I learned with the digital transformation is like you are a transformer. What does it mean? I mean that things are not well done. I mean that you are already hired just only for getting things done and for get rid for others. And so you are there exactly just only for do the things that we have to do. So this is like one part. So basically, I mean that when I started in my company, so I had a plan, as everyone. I mean that so they hired me. They told me, okay, you are here for doing the marketing automation in your company, in our company. So how are we going to do that? So basically, I mean that I set a plan. I mean that the plan was like really easy one. I mean that everything I think that everyone has already thought on something like that. So you start with the team-based workflows, then you think on the customer-centric workflows, and then at the end, you will go to the data-driven workflows with so many business insights, and your company will be so happy that you have put marketing automation in your company. So basically, the plan was perfect. The other part we have to think is like we were not alone. My company is a big company. I mean that we are playing around almost all the world somehow. So basically, I mean that we have 30 marketing coordinators that are in Europe, that are in APAC, that are in LATAM. So we have 30 marketing coordinators and 20 showroom managers that need assistance with the communications. I mean that we cannot assume all the local communications. So that's why we have like a model of communication that is partly centralized. What does it mean? I mean that from headquarters, what we do is like some workflows that are done perfectly, just only for the lead nurturing or for customer loyalty. So all those strategies that has to do with the customer retention and with the conversion with the customer are done directly in headquarters, but the local communication is done directly with the marketing coordinators and showrooms managers. So they are using some parts of our marketing automation tool. For example, in marketing cloud, they are using the email studio app. So they have to be just only taking some part on that. Okay, so this is just only for having this idea. So basically, to summarize the three before slides. So we are in a digital transformation. We say that we have to bring the marketing automation in our company, and we are not alone. So the plan is perfect, actually. I mean that we have the vision, we have the expertise, we have the plan. So what is coming? I mean that if we have everything, I mean that the plan is perfect. So is there any problem on this? Of course, there were so many problems. So the first problems, as I said, I mean that we are in a digital transformation and things are not well done. So we didn't have any golden record, and all the fields and values were customized for us. So it was like, okay, it's not possible to automate anything because everything is going to be based on exceptions. It's not going to be based on rules, but on exceptions. So this was the first point that we had to face. The second part was like the synchronization between the data, the CRM, our CRM was Salesforce, and the marketing automation tool in that moment was not one-to-one, but multiple to multiple. So this kind of personalized message, or if you were trying to reach one person, I mean that you weren't really sure about that, basically because I mean that you didn't know exactly what was on our database. So this was the second problem that we have to face. The third problem that we have in our plan, it was like with a new business opportunity, we were reaching more leads and we were reaching more records that has to be stored in our database. So when our database was growing up, the costs were growing up as well. So this was the third part of having this plan going through this one. And as well, the latest point that we had to keep in mind is like, as you see, I mean, the trends are there inside, outside. So it's like, I mean, that you need new features, you need new channels, you need new challenge as well in your company for going through this digital transformation and as well for getting more conversions to your company. So there were so many problems. So the plan was perfect, but there were so many problems. So what was the solution that we decided? Okay, we need to start from scratch. So a new tool is the solution, we thought in that moment. So then we decided, I mean, that we go through this plan, but with a new tool. So this was our idea, the main idea. So the new tool was going to be perfect. I mean, that we decided on the new tool and it was going to be the solution that we had in our mind. It was going to be a native tool that is completely connected to our CRM. The model of data is going to be perfect because I mean that we are going to avoid the problem that we have in the present, and we are going to go through to the model that is going to be to the future. So we were so convinced, I mean, that the tool was going to be the best solution that we had in our problems. So my boss, I mean, that we're expecting, okay, this is going to be so really, this is going to be crazy. I mean, that we are going to go literally from the Stone Age to have like this spaceship in 6 months. So it's going to be perfect, no problems. I mean, that no questions on that. So, but at the end, I had so many questions on that. So it was okay. How are we going to do that? Because I mean that we don't have any idea on using this new tool. How are we going to keep the business as usual ongoing when we are doing the migration? Because I mean that we have so many workflows that are already running. So how can we deal with everything? And what about all the marketing coordinators and marketing showrooms managers that need to send communications to their customers? So it was like so many questions in some point. So, okay, we have the plan, we have some questions, we have the tool, but we need to start to plan the plan. So basically, we had so many units for doing that migration. So it was like we have like the one block, what was the transactional email somehow. leads and customer workflows. So everything that was related with lead nurturing, everything that was related to customer loyalty and activity or inactivity of our users. I mean, this was another block that we decided to call like that. And local communication that was done by the market. So, and we have to replicate those three big modules in every area that we have. So we have Iberia, and North America, Europe, Latin, APAC, and Europe. The team, I mean that we were like 2 specialists, 1 CRM specialist, the supporting and 1 consultant. And the worst thing is like we were limited on the time. I mean that we had to start on May and we have to end at the end of the year. So it was like, I mean that it was so many things on the same page that we didn't really know how to start this. So our first idea was like, okay, let's start with the first etaps. But let's start with the data structure. Let's try to connect both systems like perfectly. And let's start with the QoS environment. That this is something that we have to do. So basically, the idea that we had at the beginning was, okay, let's go like take 1 region. In this case, we took Iberia and Latam because I mean that of speaking and languages, it was easier for us. So we decided to go through with these 2 regions, and we started with the data modeling, with some customer workflows, the transactionals, and then doing the local communications and the trainings with the marketing coordination. So it was like, okay, let's go with this business unit and let's go through business unit per business unit. So we thought on that migration, we are going to have more control, we are going to have escalate support, and the learning curve is going to be linear. So everything can be like really controlled and everything can be easy, done step by step during this year. But of course, I mean that we faced some troubles during the process. And the thing is like, I mean that we had the coexistence of 2 systems. So it was like just not only like to launch 1 workflow on 1 system, but you have to do that for 2 systems. So everything was replicated by 2. So at the end of the second quarter, we were, okay, this is something I mean that we have to change. Because as well, I mean that, as I say, I mean that your bosses and your managers had some pressure on you and they were asking when it's going to be ready. So basically, I mean that the pressure was done on using the tool, but not on the migration. So that's why I mean that we decided to change the plan at the end of the second quarter. And the idea so is like, okay, let's do in another way. So we started with the data modeling. So we connected all the business units. So everyone was, I mean that the local communication was using the old system. So everything was fine. And for example, as well, like the workflows were running in the other system. So there were no pressure on that. They were not rushed. So in the third quarter, I mean that what we did is like, I mean that we use these summer holidays that we have in Iberia and Europe, and we knew that in that moment we're not coming big events or something like that. So we decided to go really through the during this quarter, just only for going through the data modeling. The other part was, okay, the local communication, let's go and let's do everything together. So by this way, I mean that we are going to be more smart because I mean that we are concentrating all trainings that we have to do and we are concentrating all the support. So it was like pretty easy. I asked, so, and as well, because we wanted to keep like a learning path or a learning process like longer. So it was going to be like more easy for the adoption from other users, the new tool. So it was like easy by this way. And the customer workflow and transactionals was done at the end because I mean that it was something that we have to keep. So some things that we have learned during this well, sorry. So at the end, I mean that we finished, we launched the tool on September 2021, so it was like pretty good, pretty cool, and pretty happy everyone. So it was really nice. So things that we have learned, I mean that during this process of the migration, I mean that, and I think that is something that you have to keep in mind if you are changing a tool. and you are considering new tools for doing that. I mean, the systems are not the same. I mean, that even all the marketing automation tools and all the marketing automations technology has like the same basis, and they are working on the same processes, are not the same. So each tool has their own logic somehow. So what we are doing the migration, or when we did the migration, I mean that we migrated the same logic to the other tool. So at the end, what we got is like some technical debt that we have to solve nowadays. So the thing is like, for now, I mean that we are, every time that we are planning something, we are planning a project, or we are planning our sprint or something like that, I mean that we have to plan in 3 blocks as well. I mean that we have to plan with some business as usual. It's like around the 30% of our time, our daily time. Foundational and new workflows. I mean that because of course, I mean that you have the new tool and you have to use the new tool. So you and you have to bring your company to the next step as well, because this is what you promised in the past, that you are going to bring your company to the next level using the new tool. So you have to set up some foundational still and to create some new tools. This is like around the 50%, but you have to solve your technical debt, and this is like the 20% of our time. And the other really part that is really important, I mean, that when you are changing from one tool to another one, it's like to share the knowledge in the team. I mean that, of course, I mean that everyone, the learning process is pretty different between the persons. So you might have like really people like that are really good like on the technical part, but others are really good on the strategical part. So you have to keep the balance in your team somehow. So if you have a team leader or a team player that is working on a project one and he's developing something new, a new technique or a new workflow, or is using script, or is using, I don't know, whatever it is, I mean that you have to set up, or you have to lay a foundation. I mean that this is like, okay, this is like the way we have to do in the future. So this is like use the benefits or use the results that you got with one team or with one person for using to another person or to another project. So I think by this way, I mean that you are building like easier and faster your strategy as well of the marketing automation. So as I said before, I mean that the key points to deal with your stakeholders, I mean that it's not so easy. I mean that because everyone, I mean that is talking about this marketing automation, and marketing automation seems to be like a trend topic in Twitter, but not really everyone doesn't really know what is exactly marketing automation. So you have to modulate a little bit your speech. So depending on your stakeholder, you have to talk in one level or in another level. So, and it's really important, I mean, that to set up like real expectation, because if not, you are in a problem. and honestly, it's much better, I mean, that if you are honest with the rest of the people and you say, okay, this is what we really can achieve with this new tool, and not something that we have promised, or I don't know, something like that. So for us, I mean that we decided to modulate our speech, or to have like 3 levels of stakeholders, or we identify 3 stakeholders. The first one was our managers, directors. The other ones, the other teams and stakeholders is, for example, developers of the software, loyalty team, marketing team, whatever. They are a stakeholder as well for us, and your client or users. So in this case, we're the marketing coordinator and the showroom manager. So every of them has different motivations and different pain points somehow. So you have to do a little bit this kind of customer feeling a little bit with your own college, just only for really have the perfect speech for everyone. So with the managers and directors, I mean that what you really want is like to get some empowerment, and they want to get effectiveness. So basically, I mean that the key point is like, okay, we have this new tool, and you have to explain some case studies or some case of use that are applied for business improvement. So this bring the conversation to their level, so they will be happy if they understand what is marketing automation finally. But you have to negotiate with a little bit of time and resources, because I mean that, as I said, if you set up really big expectations, I mean that you are going to be frustrated because you are not achieving that, and they are going to be frustrated because they trust in you, and you finally didn't got what you promised. So basically, it's like try to negotiate some time and resources with them, because it's going to be like more easy to go in through this process together. With other teams and other stakeholders, yes, I mean that when you have the new tool, is everyone like happy, like in Christmas? Okay, we have a new tool, we can do so many functions, but the new tool can do everything. Then the new tool is going to be amazing, and this is going to be the medicine for all of our illness and everything. So try to negotiate with them the functions. I mean that you cannot assume everything. So it's like, try to set up a little bit expectation. Okay, yes, the new tool can do everything, or the new tool can do some things, but I'm not really sure if we have to assume all those functions. So try to negotiate with them a little bit of more time, because at the end, I mean that with other teams and other stakeholders, what you really want to do is like to achieve new business goals and to participate in some projects. So it's like negotiate with them like in a colleague way. Try to find the best place like for being like this kind of team players. And at the end, your clients, your users, other people, what they really want is like less effort, and you want as well like less effort with them. So the key point of your conversation will be, this tool brings us less effort. So it's like, it's pretty easy, but you have to negotiate with them like as well, like the learning process. I mean that they have to invest on time for having that. So this is a little bit the presentation. So as I say, I mean that it was like really practical. I mean that it is. Yeah, I wanted just only to share my experience, just in case someone can be inspired, and someone is afraid of changing the tool, but okay, it's the moment or something like that. When we finished the migration at the end, I mean that we felt like this sense of, okay, we are done. I mean that we hit a goal or whatever. And we didn't know that it was like a new world inside of everything. No, this new tool brings out so many possibilities, and we are exploring these possibilities in this moment. So the only thing that I have to say, I mean, that is like we are so happy of changing the tool, because I mean that we launched a new project in less time with better results and more impact. And sometimes we miss our old tool as everyone. So it's like fine. So my final recommendations, I mean that, as I said, if you are trying to think, or you are starting to think on changing the technology that you are using for marketing and automation, is like, try to find a solution that brings you less effort and better results. Try to simplify as much as possible your problems, because I mean that they will be complicated by their own. So you don't have to complicate them. I mean that they will be done. They will be complicated already. So try to be realistic with your own resources. I mean that with your time and with your team time, because I mean that your team can be optimistic, but if you are a manager, I mean that you cannot be optimistic as well. I mean that you have to be realistic. I mean that you cannot do everything, and your team cannot do everything as well. I mean that try to be realistic on that, on what you really can achieve, and try to be honest with the rest of the stakeholders. I mean that there is a learning process, and even you are a master of marketing automation and everything. I mean that it's a new process of working, or it's a new tool. So you have to learn, you have to master that. So it's a learning process always. So this is another recommendation that I have to say. And for me, it's like enjoy the process. This is like, I mean that if you are in a digital transformation, I mean that it's your time. So it's the time for doing the things as you want to do. It's the time for learning again. It's the time for exploring new functionalities. It's like the time for getting excited with new projects. So it's your time. So enjoy that. So this is basically the end. I mean that I don't know if you have any questions. Here you have my contact as well. So in the case that you really need something, and this is my company. As I said, I mean that we are selling surfaces, but it's a really big company. So I don't know if there is any question.
There are a couple, Elena, and there's one that stands out to me here, and I've been thinking about it for a while, just while you were finishing off your presentation there. And I suppose it comes back to that idea of testing and asking for patience for people, because there are times when marketing automation can fail, aren't there?
Yes, there are so many times that marketing automation can fail, but it doesn't matter. I mean that I think that this is, as I said, I mean that it's a learning process. Every mistake is something. So we have so many projects that fail sometimes, and it doesn't mean, I mean, that the project failed. Maybe what I mean that when something failed, I mean that you have to analyze what was wrong. I mean that you have to analyze one layer that is going to be like the technology. I mean that is the connection well done, or is the back end well done, or is something what's wrong exactly? Was the strategy? Was the customer? Was the moment? What was that? So I think that when something fails, it's not something that is like something really bad. I think that is the time for rethinking what you did, and I think that is pretty nice. So I think that it's something that you have to keep in mind.
And I love the philosophy about enjoying the process, because there can be many things, I guess, that make you unsure as to whether to proceed.
Yes, of course. I mean that enjoy the process, because I mean that the process is painful. I have to say. I mean that because of course, I mean that it's the first time. I mean that I'm not really sure how many people has already changed or has done a migration, but it's something that, okay, you have some experience, or maybe there are people who is experienced on one part or in another part, but the migration indeed is something that is completely new somehow. Even we have a consultant. I mean that we had the consultant, but the company is different. So every time that is going to be different. So it's something that even you plan everything and you try to control everything. It's impossible to control everything. And the thing is like there will be some things that you didn't plan. So many hotfix you have to do in the moment, because I mean that there is something that is broken in the moment when you are doing new connections and something like that. So you plan something, you try to analyze everything before going through the process. But when you are in the middle of the process, you think, okay, the strategy that we thought before is not working. So we have to rethink and we have to replan all the migration then. And no matters, I mean that I think that going through the process is something that you learn, because I mean that if you have a team, I mean that in my case, I mean that my team was something like I'm really proud of, and they are my colleagues, they are my friends. So it's something that it was like really funny, because I mean that it was like, okay, we are here like firemen trying to avoid to make like something like really bad, but it's fine. It's something for enjoying.
Of course. And do you think, is there any argument to say that in-house solutions are better than external platforms for people, or really those platforms are the way to go?
I'm not really sure of my answer on that. I think that it depends. I do really like to use like solutions that are really done, because I mean that, for example, by my experience, I had the experience of using like own systems that were done for us in-house and external systems. So my consideration with the external system and the external tools and software is like there are companies working for that. So it's like, I mean that it's much, I don't know how to say that, but it's like, I mean that the core of their business is like to deploy the software that you are using. So there are so many people that is working on deploy that system. So, and it's going to have like some standardized processes that will make your life easier, because you don't have to do that in-house. So in one part, I will say I will recommend like to use like these other software that are already done, because the core of those software are done for that. But in the other hand, of course, I mean that one in-house system is something that is really done for your business. So it's complicated to take that decision. I mean,
of course, yeah, okay. Well, look, thank you for your experiences here. Thank you for sharing those and exactly how that went for you over those last 6 months. Because it certainly looks like it benefited you, but certainly did take some thinking and some planning. So I think everyone's learned a lot from that today. But thank you for being with us today, Ellen. Really appreciate it.
Thanks to you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the rest of you for all of your questions and interaction today, and of course all of our speakers who've been part of what we've been doing for you today. This virtual summit obviously doesn't come together without them being part of it, but we shouldn't forget particularly our sponsors, so our gold sponsor Bigtincan and the silver sponsor today, who were CleverTap. If you want any more information about what we've been producing today, or you'd like to be involved in any other events, Jennifer@groupfuturista.com is the person to email. We are hosting a webinar tomorrow, starting at the same time as this one did today, on the future of text analytics. That's our virtual summit. And then on the 9th of June, it's the future of contract lifecycle management for businesses. We have a virtual summit there. And we are also looking later on in June as well at producing the future of fraud management, potentially on the 28th of June. So plenty more to come from us as well. Like I say, if you want to know more about the next webinar that you might want to be part of, Jennifer@groupfuturista.com is the person to email. But really hope you found today insightful and useful, and potentially made even some new connections. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you at our next one. Thank you very much.